So I want to just touch very quickly on clay. Okay, so clay platelets are the basically little circles. Okay, in a healthy soil structure, your platelets will form H's. So one on top, one down the center, one on the bottom. You know, it's a structure and it allows the water to flow through. Which again, it's going back and forth. It's energizing. I want you to think for just a moment if the clay platelets originally are all flat together, which doesn't allow water to flow through, and you add biology, etc., and all of a sudden that clay platelet stands up and forms these structures, how the heck is it doing that, guys? We're talking, something you have to look through a microscope, okay, to really see. And you've got a foot of soil on top. That's a lot of weight. How does it end up being stood up like that and forming this structure? The energy of the structured water, like I was saying, a magnetic levitation, okay, can lift that soil up. That's how powerful this is. You think you have to have a very powerful water pump for a deep well on a property to be able to, conquer the head or the weight from the water above it to push the water up. Okay. You have to have a really strong pump to do that. Well, in our soils, it's being done by the energy of the easy water that is being created in your soil structure. That's just it's a side note, guys, but it's one of those things that I've thought about when, geez, how do these clay platelets stand up? And that's the only method I can understand, and only because I learned from Gerald Pollock how this easy water energizes things. That energy is phenomenal. So if you can energize your water, you're going to be so much further ahead than somebody that isn't doing that, especially if you're drinking that water yourself. It's energized, and then it's energizing you as well, and the water in your body. So that's where the sun gazing, because a lot of that energy is coming from the spectrum, okay, that we see at dawn and dusk. Okay, so your infrareds. Remember, guys, infrared penetrates your soil, more than a foot deep. So the energy is going into your soil. Okay, that's how these water molecules are being energized. That's where grounding is very important as well, guys. And I know I've got Stefan Burns coming on. He's an expert on, the energy around our planet, the Schumann resonance, an expert on grounding, etc. He's coming up here this coming week. We're going to be talking to him about stuff like that. But that energetic flow all works together. We want to energize all of the water around us as much as we possibly can. So you have your gardening water system set up. Are you running just the sprayer, the old school, back and forth, spraying out water, and you see the little rainbows in the sun? That's evaporation, and you're losing it. You're much better off if you have the potential to keep that water at ground level. So if you're gardening, drip systems are an amazing things to have. Timed watering systems where you're not watering in the heat of the day, so you have less evaporation. But if you have a drip system and you've got your mulch covering it, you don't have to worry about that evaporation because the water is underneath your mulch. It's watering your mulch because of the not osmotic pressure, capillary action of the water molecules moving up to keep your mulch moist, but your soil is moist. That's what you want. Remember, we don't want hydrophobic soil. That's where if you really water overly much and you don't have your soil system set up where the water can drain through, you have problems because you're drowning things. Now, if you're like me, you have a heavy clay soil, you have that problem. The water does not want to drain through. Okay, it wants to be held like in a pond. Okay, so the more biology you get in there, the more that the biology is going to work to put enough energy in there, especially if you have plants, because that's drawing energy too, to lift those clay platelets up, like I did in the swampy area in my property, and the water is going to drain through. When you have that, and that's where if you've never heard of Gabe Brown, that's a gentleman that researched what he's done with his properties just by using livestock to reinvigorate the biology in his soils. I've seen a show where they had a torrential downpour where everybody's fields around him, had standing water everywhere. He went on his field, there was no water. It had all been sucked into the soil system. He could literally drive out onto his, property and not leave ruts. The moisture had just been sucked down. Hey, martial artists, it is so important for that penetration to happen. I know I talked on one of my shows about the Great Wall in Africa where they're planting trees. There's one section, the one video I watched, where they literally had rivers start to flow again by planting trees, etc., and bringing the life back into the soil. They literally were able to have rivers running again because what they did is the water they were getting, they would stop it, let it sink into the soil. The more water you sink in the soil, once the soil is filled up, the water table rises and you have a creek again, you have a river again. And that is life. Water is life. Without it, we're all pretty much toast. As Food Forest says, water is amazing. And it definitely is.